Hello, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Ad America. Thank you very much, everyone. Ad America is the U.S. Embassy's American Center, the place to learn more about American culture. Hello again, everyone. My name is Aldi Rashid, your e-guide for today's event, The Art of Piano, a masterclass with Professor Harding and future stars. Boleh minta tepuk tangannya untuk kita semua? Yes, and before we begin our event for today, I would like to give a kind reminder to all our audience. Please remain seated during the performance. Sobat America, this week we have been privileged to be in the presence of Professor Christopher Harding for a series of piano master classes. And now, a brief introduction. Professor Harding is a pianist and professor at the University of Michigan, with an international career spanning solo, concerto, and chamber music performances. He has performed at the Kennedy Center, Suntory Hall, and the National Theatre Concert Hall. His concerto appearances include engagements with the National Symphony, St. Louis Symphony, and Tokyo City Philharmonic under conductors such as Andrew Sewell, Giselle Bendor, and Taijiro Imori. Professor Harding has collaborated with musicians such as Carl Leister, Andras Adorjan, and members of the St. Laurent and Ying quartets. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Professor Christopher Harding.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And I'm so pleased to be here today and to hear our two performers. Why don't we get started with Michael first? Good, Michael. Good, very much. Do you know, actually, if I speak without this microphone, can you hear me well enough? Better with the microphone? Okay, there it is. It's just that I can't really go back and forth and do very much so. All right, good. Michael, it's a very good performance of this. Of course, you know that it is a waltz, or not a waltz, but a dance from Poland, the Mazurka region in Poland. I mean, there are many regions where they dance mazurkas, but it's from Poland. I find in your playing that I want it to be much more proud, much more dance-like, and much more rustic is the word that I want to use, a little bit more primitive, okay? In some ways, you are too refined for my taste because your pulse is very even throughout. Not exactly even. You do have a kind of, a kind of lilt in your playing, which is very beautiful and very good, but it is very gentle. It's like you're speaking Polish with a very gentle accent. I want it to be much more rustic, much more aggressive in some ways, okay? So I want to start from the beginning. If you wouldn't mind, let's not do the very opening, which is introductory at this point, but what I would like you to do is to maybe play just from where the melody starts. Would you mind? Good. Okay, so your tempos 1 and 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. But what if you were to give us more emphasis on certain unfamiliar beats, like the third beat or the second beat? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, or 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. What would that sound like? 1, 2, 3, 1, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. And then and so forth. So there has to be a little bit more interest in your rhythm all the way through. One way to do this, actually, well, there are several ways that we can approach it. One way to do it is to have a much larger beat that we're thinking about. So you're not going 1, 2, 3, 1, but you're going 1, 1, 1, from downbeat to downbeat. It's possible, okay? It's possible to be thinking 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. We could put the accent on a different beat like this. It's possible also to really examine the melody and really decide what's important about the melody. This line that comes down, yum. So you've got this rhythm each time, and then you have. So that rhythm is the same, but we don't have to pronounce it the same way each time. We could do different things. We could decide that we want to emphasize the fact that here we go up and down, here, then we go down and up. So how you want to show the shape of the line and the shape of the phrase in a piece like this is most of the interest. Because a mazurka, although it is important because it is a kind of artifact from Poland, Chopin is writing it because he's homesick. He wants to remind himself and teach other people what it feels like to be in Poland at this point. It's not a very complicated piece in terms of its musical meaning or its musical structure. However, it can be very useful or very valuable to really examine how the melody is put together. And in Chopin, especially in mazurkas, the melody is the most important thing. Okay? So the left hand exists to give a rhythm, to give harmony, to give color, and so forth and so on. But the left hand really exists to serve the right hand, to serve the melody in this kind of piece. So whatever the right hand wants to do, scoot over, the left hand has to really let it do that. And then what is it? This would be different. And so forth. So you have to kind of make it up as you go along. Then, would you mind holding this? I don't play this piece, but You see, the left hand is simply there to allow the right hand to be beautiful, okay? But the right hand does whatever the heck it wants, okay? And the left hand is there just as a kind of waiter. You know, at the dinner table, you know, if you go out to a restaurant, you decide what to eat, you decide when to eat it, you decide how to eat it. The waiter's just there to take the plate, as it were, okay? Can we start once again from here? And actually, would you just play the right hand? And what I would like you to do is to simply be imaginative with the melody. Okay, don't count, but rather paint. Yum piti da yum pati da pim patim pam pim and so forth. Do some crazy things, and let's see what comes out. Would you try? Okay, so what I heard you play was 1 and 2, 3, 1 and 2, 3, 1 and 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Does that sound crazy to you? No. I want to hear 1 and 2, 3, 1 and 2, 3, 1 and 2, 3, 1. Now, I'm actually asking you to do something that's very difficult because I want you to be imaginative and crazy at the same time. I think what I need to do is to ask you to listen to your sound a little bit more because that's really what's determining whether I take time or not. So if I play this, and by the way, I'm playing louder than you, okay? So, I mean, it is piano from the beginning. I understand that. But you have to give me sound to project out to the audience. This G. You have to hear that B. It's going to resolve to the A, D. That's the first time we've had a grace note here. I mean, I know we had it in the introduction, but at this point, that's a little sassy, it seems to me. Do you know that word sassy? Yeah, that's when some girl's looking at you and she says, not my type. You know, like that. She goes somewhere else. I want that yum padum. Then this. All that chromaticism where you have all those notes which are together, this. Then yum bidum be yum padum. Yum di da da di da da di da da di da di yum. Is that Polish or what? Yum. That has to be like she kicks her heel or something and her dress goes up a little bit and everybody's like, this way. Yum. You have to not be regular. Do you know, once when I was in my undergraduate, I was taking a music history class, and they played for us a traditional song from Ireland with an Irish guy singing it. He was like 95 years old. And he was singing it in just a traditional way, as it were, and they said, write it down. That's not so hard to do. You hear the music and you write it down. I couldn't write this down to save my life because he was not counting. Nothing was regular, or the pitches were very suspect as all the way through. I didn't really understand the words. It was so traditional, it was radical, okay, in a way. I just didn't understand. That's this kind of music. When you played for me, you played very beautifully, but it was very appropriate to a nice French salon where everybody's sitting nicely and listening to you and drinking their tea, as it were. This is not that kind of music. This is music where people get up and dance in a very energetic way, and they're really trying to attract one another. There's a lot of attractive attention or attention in this, which I want to hear. And part of that comes from not being regular, as it were. Okay? Start once again, please, and I want you just to play loud. And then listen to your sound. And then yum-be-yum-ba-dum. Then da-da-da-da-da-da-da. That'll be different. Whatever the notes are. Okay, good. Can you try once again? And be crazy. good. It's good. And you know, Michael, what I was very pleased to hear you do was that you were singing as you played. Okay, I don't know if the audience could hear that. I should have put the microphone up. You were singing. That is exactly what to do. When we are playing the piano, our goal is not to make it sound like a percussion instrument, which it really is because the hammers are coming up and striking the strings. Our goal is to be a magician and to make it sound like a singer, or to make it sound like a violin, or to make it sound like an oboe or a flute or something like that. And to do that, we have to be really listening to a singing sound in our ear. So when you have this long note, we have to sing that tee da 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 dee dee da 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 tee da da dee tee da dee um ba dum bum tee and so forth. So really make use of your singing and listen to how your voice wants to float. Sometimes we sing tee, we float the sound, and then it comes back tee da da dee da dee da tee da dee da dee da dee um ba dee dum tee. Can we do that on the piano? If we do this. And so forth. Can you try that? That's more expressive, it seems like to me. Also, what I want to show you is that you got what I was doing, which was moving forward. But you didn't get what I'm actually listening to inside. This G sharp, A sharp to G sharp, F double sharp to G sharp, and then you do it several times. That shouldn't all be the same. It's this, to there, to there, to there. This is a whole step coming down. This is a half step going up. It's like you're smiling, T-dum, frowning, T-dum, T-dum, body, 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 body. That's got to, that life has to be in there. Well, I've lost it. Then, same idea. And then what is it? And so forth. Then it gets more and more excited. She decides that she wants to wave something in the air, like her handkerchief. And then she lets it fall. And some guy goes and grabs it and picks it up. Okay? You have to have that kind of, what I want to say, connection to what's going on in the melody. All right, would you try from here once again, please? And again, be crazy. If you want to take time. Actually, I'm going to play, and I want you to count. 1, 2, 3. But you got to follow me. I'm not going to follow you. Okay? 1, 2, 3. Ready and count. Was that even? No, not at all. I was really jerking you around as we're going through there, okay? That's what's going to happen to your left hand. Would you try now both hands? And I want your left hand to follow what the right hand wants to do. Keep the left hand soft. And the left hand is always going to have a strong downbeat. I'm in the wrong key. And then you have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. It might move forward. It might have to wait a long time. That's, how should I say? In my experience, I'm always waiting for my wife. Okay? I mean, she'll say, okay, I'm ready, but that really means she's going to be ready in about 20 minutes. So I start checking my phone when she says that kind of word. I want your left hand to be waiting for the right hand always. But that's its job. It's just waiting around. Can we try? And it better be crazy. That's already better. That's already much better, okay? Now, to make it sound a little bit more palatable to our audience, we want to make sure that your left hand is not too loud. Because the more you say 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, that's like your waiter always coming and saying, "Are you done? Can I take your dish?" Okay? You know, "Do you want anything else?" This way. That's not what the left hand needs to do, okay? Hold this for a second. Okay. So if we're playing this. All sorts of wrong notes, but you see that the right hand is really all by herself up here, and the left hand is just playing soft. The left hand, let me have that back, thank you. The left hand actually has a very magical role to produce, or to provide. It's color, it's emotion. The right hand is singing all this stuff. She's saying, you know, "I'm here, my mom made me come, and I didn't want to come to this dance, but actually I see a lot of handsome guys here, and it's really exciting me, you know, and I want to make a good impression because one of them might become my husband." And the left hand is like, "Oh yeah." It's just doing all this stuff. It's providing the atmosphere and the color. Okay, so the softer you can play, the more the right hand's going to be very beautiful, and the left hand will have a kind of refined role in a sense. Okay, so let's try. It's good. You're picking that up quite readily. It's really quite nice to hear. Now, you'll notice that when the left hand is out of the way, the right hand has more freedom. She can do whatever she wants. So you have this. And do whatever she wants. And the left hand is soft, it's going to sound great. Okay? You can do whatever you want as long as it's beautiful. Can we try? From here. Now, take your time. Take your time. Already much better. It's good. How does it feel different to you?
I think it feels more expressive.
More expressive? Good. Does it feel more fun?
Yeah, more fun, more jerking around.
More jerking around. That's good. Good. Now, that's the style in which we want to play. It is true that I think that your left hand is a little boring here. That's not always your fault because it's not very interesting what Chopin is writing there. But I think that you have to really think more, less, least, more, less, least, more. And I think that sometimes you can go to the second beat, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, which makes it sound like a Viennese waltz. Maybe you don't want that. It could be 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. That would be. Could be underneath, but it should always be softer than what the right hand is doing. Okay. Now, the introduction that we have. He says maestoso. What does maestoso mean?
Majestic.
Majestic, yes. Okay. Or important, or something like that. Do you think that maestoso is for the whole mazurka, or just for the introduction? For the whole mazurka? I don't think so. I think that the maestoso is for the very beginning. He says he wants this to be important. Scoot over. You can hold this. So if we're playing. Flirtatious here, okay? But at the beginning, the maestoso is, he's sitting down, and you know, some rich old lady comes over and says, "Oh, Chopin, play us a mazurka from Poland," something like this. And he says, "Oh, what am I going to do? You know, she's my dinner for this evening, so I've got to play something." And it's very interesting that he starts in the middle, one. But in any case, you simply want to make it up as you go along. But at the beginning, just think about the idea a little bit. Can we try? Don't count. Make it a painted improvisation. No, that's a little bit too plain for me, this one. What's he looking for? C sharp minor? Kind of E major. So he's deciding, should I be in E major or should I be in C sharp minor? Try? Just explore. I'm not convinced. I think that you can be deeper. I think you can be slower. I think that you can be more wondering. Do you improvise? Improvise something for us, please. That's okay. Now, actually, that was very, very valuable, what you just did. Okay, scoot over. Oh, Chopin, play us a Polish Polonaise, please. Chopin is wondering, what in the heck am I going to do? Can you do that? You see, this is the process of turning the piece from notes on a page to something that lives. Okay? There is an ancient Greek myth. I don't know, I like thinking about ancient things. There's a myth about a sculptor, somebody who made sculptures, statues, and his name was Pygmalion. And he created the sculpture of a woman so beautiful that he fell in love with it. And the gods said, fine, we're going to make that statue into a living woman. So they made the stone statue into a woman who lived and breathed. That's your job when you play this. You have to understand that this is not maestoso. That's correct, but that's still a statue. You have to make it come to life. When I said improvise something, you were like, you know, what do I have to do? And then you thought. And then you thought some more, and then you finally said, oh, I can't do it, you know. That's what Chopin is thinking here. And then he says, well, that's all I got, so I'm going to make that my melody, as it were. Just noodle around. Can you try? Good. Thank you very much. Good, good. That was much better, it seemed to me. Okay. As the more you play around with that, the more realistic it will become, or the more convicting it will become to you. Now, there are a few things here. Can you hold this, please? You see that the left hand changes, and you've got octaves here. That means that the right hand has to also be more. So I want more sound here. And then you have this. When you go to a dinner, okay? When you go out to dinner with a beautiful woman, let's say, okay? There are always going to be awkward moments where you run out of stuff to say and she runs out of stuff to say. And I bet she's going to do something. She's going to go like this. You know, because I don't know, all girls do this. I don't know, please forgive me, but girls move in a certain way that guys don't move, and I find it very beautiful. And this is one of those moments, okay, where you've run out of everything to say. You said, you know, but then I want you to be a little bit more flirtatious here. And then you do it again. Sorry. Then you see that there is a long phrase here. And that means that Chopin wants you to go all the way without stopping. You to take a big long breath. One long phrase. Can we start? Actually, oh, and you have to do this a little bit better. And it's something, I mean, to hear that sound, but then when the left hand comes in, that color. maybe from here. Now, listen. Oh, no, you have to be more flirtatious. Listen to your sound. That's a girl that I want to go out to lunch with. Can we try T-Rod? Now long. Keep it going. Sorry, not interesting enough, okay? You have to show me that you're going up and then you come down. And also your sound has to be bigger. You have to show me all those rises and falls a little bit more. Can we try once again? From your flirtation here to... Keep it moving, Chira Tom. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2, 3 and 1. Chira Tom. Good, thank you. This was better. I think that you can have a little bit more whimsy here. Because you have to hear this A sharp, G sharp, F sharp, E sharp, but you also have to hear D sharp, C sharp, B to A sharp at this point, okay? Then, when you get here, I want to hear more of the bass that you've got this. He actually marks it to me. So much. It's the left hand that has a little bit more to say. That might be the grandfather who comes out and says, "Behave yourself," but I'm like that you're here. Can we try from there, please? More right hand. I think I would do more. This is I think that I would get louder there actually and get faster all the way through. Once again, yum ba dum beep. Somebody wrote horse steps here. That's interesting. Does the horse dance the mazurka? No, horses don't dance at all, okay? Unless they're doing, well, I forgot what that's called, but they do dressage, that's what they do, okay? But in this case, I think that the girl has to go a little bit this way. She says, "I'm going to the bathroom," so she runs away a little bit like this. Can we try from here? Team da-dum ba-dum. Now louder. The loudest you can be. Now that is a very interesting harmony. So here we're expecting to go someplace else. And so we go. From the beginning, but I want you to get me there in a surprise way. try from here? Let's go from yam panitadam. Yes. Good. I think that you could have made the transition better too. Yes. No. That should be louder. Tom Pim. You know, she says, "Are we going to your car?" And he says, "That's right." Tiampa. Can we try? Tira tira. That's right, yes. More crazy. Keep going. Good, very good. The rest of this is basically the same. I like how your teacher has written in party, mystery. That's all good, but what is that, pancake?
It's like the climax.
The climax. All right. Okay, so that's a written in Indonesian climax. That's okay. That's fine. Okay? You can give me more sound there, but I'm really worried about the end. Can you hold this for a second? So you've got all this stuff. I know that I have to stop. Really end with mystery all the way through. Can you try that? This will be the last thing we do. Slower and slower. That's better. Could be even slower as you listen to your sound, because I don't know what happened. They went away to the car and maybe she never came back. That happens sometimes, okay? So, I mean, maybe this is a story about that, okay? Do you have any questions, Michael? No? Great. So I want it to be more wild. I want it to be less counted. I want it to be more story-like all the way through and more important, okay, in its story. Great. Thank you very much for playing.
I'll take my pencil.
So our next performer is Stephen, playing Rachmaninoff. A headset.
Yes.
Boleh. Here.
Is it okay? Yes. He will put in the pocket. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe better.
Better inside.
Or-
Inside. Oh, all right. Okay. So you just say yes. Test 1, 2, 3.
Test 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Yes, you can speak now.
All right, so Stephen is going to play for us Rachmaninoff 23, number 6, the Etude Tableau, Opus 23, number
Prelude.
6. Prelude, excuse me, sorry. Thank you very much, Stephen. Thank you very much indeed. And I want to compliment you. It's never easy to play after you've been sitting for 45 or 50 minutes listening to somebody else on a piano you've never tried before, so it's really going quite well. So I want to... First of all, I will confess that I've never taught a blind pianist a masterclass before, okay? So if I do something that is really weird, please let me know, okay? And then we'll just find some other way to do it.
It won't happen.
Okay,
It will
great.
never happen, so
Great,
it's okay.
great, thank you. Could we start once again from the beginning? And what I would like to, well, first of all, maybe you could tell us what you feel this piece is about. What's the message you want the audience to receive?
It's more of like sunshine, and yet it's more of like a reflective kind of. I imagine this like playing during sunshine, where I'm outside and just reflecting upon like life, and but it's more of a positive note, not like a depressing kind of stuff.
You're not regretting anything, you're
No.
just kind of remembering something. Good.
Yeah.
And I like the sunshine image too, because it's a very beautiful key. Could we always understand where the goal of our gesture is? When you start here, I'm going to play this. Of course, we want to get to the long note at the end. And then we do it again. And then we have... always to the B flats. It seems like the B flat is the most important thing for Rachmaninoff. However, underneath, of course, he also has this left hand, which is climbing, 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 climbing. Unusual for Rachmaninoff, because I have a colleague who plays great Russian music. I mean, he plays Russian music in a great way, and he says that Rachmaninoff, or excuse me, Scriabin always goes up, but Rachmaninoff always goes down, in a sense, okay? But this, Rachmaninoff is going up and up. Okay, here we come back down, I guess. But it's always moving up and up and up and up. And I want, since he starts with a rest, there's nothing on the downbeat, we just have 1 and 2, and I really want it to move. Actually, let's just try. Can you play the left hand, please? And I'm sure that you're experiencing on this piano some differences that I've experienced too. The sound really needs to be deep in the key, and we have to be holding it longer so that the sound has as much possibility to ring. Sorry, I'm coughing. To ring as possible. The other thing that I noticed about this piano, and every piano is different, but on this piano, the pedal needs to be really down to the floor, as it were. It doesn't engage immediately. So think about that as you're playing as well, but especially when you're playing, I want to feel the weight of your arm in the key so we get that deep Russian sound. Can we try? And then keep going. Already better. I like the motion very much. Now I'm wondering, we won't put the right hand together yet. I want you to actually breathe before you start. So I want... That's it. That's right. Now, how are you grouping these notes together? I would be thinking always, and 2 there, and then 2 there, and then 2 there, and then 2. That kind of inner grouping together, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, will actually give us more interior motion, a kind of momentum that's going through. Or you could be thinking 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't like that one as much, but it's possible. Can we do tira 1, and then 2 there, and then 2 there, and then 2 there? Can we try? That's right, Stephen. Keep going. Keep going. Right. Very good. Very good. That motion is what we want. Now, when you had this, when you get to that sound, I want to hear that chromatic motion down. To there. So if you can hear that little inside voice. that kind of longing that we have in our hearts. We're like, oh, that day was so magical. I wish I could have another day like that, as it were. Can we start once again from here when you have the second time? Good. You heard that inside line here. That was good, but I need to hear it from the D flat. Bring out the C, and then coming down a little bit more. Can we try?
Sure.
Yes. Better. Do-de-do-de. Good. Stephen, you've got the right idea. Now, there are going to be times actually where we don't want to have 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Instead, we want a long line, like in this third phrase here. It keeps going. All the way through. So it is a long breathed phrase, okay? All right,
Okay.
we'll take care of that as we go along. Now, in this, well, I don't want to make you stand up. What I want you, no, that's okay.
It's
All
fine.
right.
It's fine. Of course.
So you're there.
No problem. I won't fall off or something.
Great.
No problem.
When you play this in the right hand, I want the sound to be long. As long as you can. And I'm going to play on your shoulder. You want to feel that that sound is always deep from your shoulder, from this shoulder, that the weight is going down your arm into the key very, very long and very freely. Can we start from the beginning? Both hands is fine. Keep going. Feel the way from here. Long into the key. Right, good, you got it. You know what I was very impressed with is that you brought out that inner line, in the left hand. That was great. Now, in the right hand, we get to the B flat. We get to the B flat again, and then jump it on. We get to the B flat again. But then what happens? B flat, but same thing, but different harmonies this time. It's a G minor there. So in this prelude, it's really like Rachmaninoff is trying to set himself the challenge of how to say the same thing over and over, but with different feelings about it. You know, it's like somebody says, oh, do you remember that day where we both went on the picnic and it was great because it was sunshiny and we had the most beautiful sandwiches and the drink was great and there was nobody else around and we just talked about our lives. It was great. And then the other person says, yeah, I remember that day when we went on a picnic and the sun was shining and we talked about our lives and the drink was terrible. You know, like this. So we want the same thing, but a different feeling as we go through. Long in the key. Can we start once again from the beginning?
Sorry, Professor.
Yes.
I have a question. Like, how? I mean, it's more of the execution side of things. Like,
Yes.
how do you? Because apparently it's this, and then there is like a rest in the first beat. So how do you like have the rest and yet still keep the line, the long line?
Yeah, it's a good question.
Yeah. So
So sometimes rests do not mean silence. Rests simply mean to get out of the key so that you can start the next clause or the next gesture or the next phrase well. So if I were to play this without pedal, here, then a rest. And then of course there is no rest. It goes all the way through, but then I have another rest. And then, what are my notes? Then, okay. So that rest is actually just a kind of signal for you to take off your hand so that you can start the next phrase. And if you want the sound to be continuing throughout one phrase, although I don't think this is one phrase, that's one thing. Then I start it again, like this. But if I want the sound to continue, I have to keep holding it. Ti-tom-pim, ti-ta-ti-tom-pim, tom-pi-tom-pi-ta-ti-ta-ti-ta-ti-tom-pim, like this. So it becomes a continuity of phrase depending upon how you're touching the key and how you are singing from your heart. Can we try once again? Maybe just the right hand if you wish. And out. Yes. Now more. Stephen, that was very beautifully shaped. Can you try it once again just to make sure it wasn't an accident? So. Yes. And right. That's good. For my taste, maybe a decrescendo is a little too much at the end, but it's a very beautiful shape. Okay. The reason why I think a decrescendo is a little much is because when we add the left hand, you have to save room for the left hand to be running around underneath. I don't know what the left hand could be. It could be the stream beside which we had our picnic. It could be the wind that is blowing us through this. It could be the ants which are moving on the ground. I don't know. But I wanted to give motion, some kind of momentum to the right hand. Let's start from the beginning. Lots of pedal. Good, Stephen. That was really quite good. Now I'm going to ask my trusty assistant in the audience, do you hear a difference in that? Is it more full? Is it more moving? She's nodding yes. Okay, so that's good. So we're moving in the right direction for sure. I think your left hand is actually holding your right hand back too much. If you could move with the wind a little bit more, that will help your right hand to move more horizontally over to the side. So you see I'm moving you from your wrist, and the arm follows, delivering the weight to the keys, but the fingers, they have to touch the key in a way that makes it sing. Try once again and move faster in your left hand. Keep it moving. Good. Keep going. Keep it moving. Good. That diminuendo actually could be quite nice there. If you save that kind of decrescendo for the second time, that's right, it'll be more meaningful. Now, what I want to hear in your left hand the second time, you've got this C, which becomes the D, and then G. So that bass line, I want to hear that you move forward a little bit more. And as we know in romantic music, especially, the melody is king or queen, and then the bass really holds everything up, like the foundation of the house. Can you start from the second phrase, wherever you want?
Where?
I meant actually here. So it's when you have this, sorry.
Right, okay. Right.
And then you start it again. Yes. More sound, keep it moving. Yes. Stephen, that was really good. Now, what I really want is for you to draw us over the top without stopping in the right hand. Could you stand up once again, please? Okay. So we want to hear this sound. And then you could take your time at the very end for the G minor. But I think once we're going over the top here, we want to really get to the end, okay? Can you try that second phrase once again, please? Even more weight from your arms. Now take us over the top. Keep going. Good. Let's go on. Keep it moving. Okay, so the dynamic that you just arrived at, right at that F minor, what dynamic was that?
Piano.
Well, it's more like pianissimo, the way that you were playing. Okay?
Oh, okay.
Remember that when we are performing, we're not performing for what we hear at the piano, but we're performing for what they're going to hear in the audience. I don't know, we have maybe 50 people here, something like that, in a room that could hold about 200. I need for you to play for your deaf grandmother who's in the very back row so that she's going to hear what's going on here. So when you get this, pom, pom, yum, pom, whatever these notes are, that's going to be your piano, okay? Make everything bigger. Do you know, I don't know if you've ever been to Russia. I know you've traveled a lot, but have you been to Russia?
No.
Russia is the Texas of Europe. So Texas is a big, big state in the United States, and they've got attitude down in Texas. Everything is big, and when they strut, they call it walking, you know, that kind of thing, okay? So Russia is the same thing. Russia went to Europe, and they said, this is all great. We're going to take it back to Russia, and we're going to do it bigger and better, as it were. Everything in Russia is big, is full and rich. That's what I want. Can we start wherever you want, like maybe from your G minor? Big sound. Give me more sound. Now we have a crescendo. Keep going. Good. It's not bad. I'm going to ask you to stand up again. This is really an exercise class, okay? What I want you to do is to feel when you've got all these phrases which are in one line, but they're kind of phrased a little bit differently. This, and then yum. It has to have the shape of a long phrase, but be phrased or spoken in very small clauses. And then yum, and then yum hi, this yum cha and then chi yum, and then we start this really long phrase. So yum hi dum bum yum hi dum bum. Rachmaninoff must have really loved his wife. I hear that completely here. He's talking about that day at the springtime when we decided we were going to get married. It's such an incredible thing. Can we try once again from that little old G minor that we had on the first page?
Professor, I have a question.
Yes.
The G minor part, I mean, for me at least, I feel there's like more tension in it. So like, how would you suggest like bringing, because G minor and then move to F minor and then it finally resolves to the tonic, right?
Mm-hmm.
How would you express? I mean, it's tension and yet it's still having the piano dynamic in a way. So
that's true, but we can color it differently.
Mm-hmm.
We could move forward more. We could color it differently with the left hand. Scoot over again. Sorry, I'm going to ask you to stand. Okay, so we had this from the beginning. So that's the color I have in the left hand, all the way through the first part. It's pretty present, and then I do it again. Whatever this is, and then. So you see, I brought the left hand down, but I'm still moving with it. I come up, and then I have to turn the page here. Then what do I have? G. And then, sorry, and then. What are my notes? You play this so much better than I do. So I'm coloring with the left hand according to each harmony. That harmonic difference, if I'm hearing G minor to F minor to E flat, that also gives me some momentum for the architecture of the piece. Does that answer your question?
Yes, of course.
Great. Let's try once again from the G minor. There it is. Deep sound. Start to build up. Good. That's better. Good. Now I want to challenge you with a couple of things. First of all, as you notice, you have this low bass note, but then from then on, we don't really have very much bass for a while, and so forth, until we get going to here, ta ti ta ti ta ti da, and then you have this bass note, and then the C, and then finally an octave F. And I want that to be quite loud. It's the lowest note we've had in the piece so far, okay? And you want to make sure that it has a great deal of meaning behind it. So I want to challenge you to bring out that bass progression just a little bit more. The other challenge that I would like you to do is to be less careful with your pedal. Can you stand up once again? Okay, we're always remembering that I don't play this piece. So you've got this, and then I would change for the bass, change here, and then change only for the basses, because you need to keep that bass in your ear. What these notes are, and then bring out that C flat a little bit more. Sorry, then that C flat is going to resolve to the B flat eventually there. So we have to be thinking about this voice leading over long lines, okay? Can we start from wherever you like? Can we go back to that G minor? Crescendo and I'll be moving forward. That's good, Stephen. Poco a poco crescendo. Give me your bass and party. Here, come down to the G. D. Hold that pedal down. Now D flat. And then C. Now still loud. Very good. Very good, Stephen. I like that. I'm going to ask for it once again just to make sure it wasn't a mistake. But scoot over for a second, okay? I want you to hear how the line never stops. You've got this forte, sorry, in the wrong octave. And then then we're piano. But then so we get down to E flat, okay, at this point. So I want you to, even though we get piano here, I want you to keep that sound. Isn't that so beautiful, or what? Can we try? You know, people have been ripping off Rachmaninoff for years because he writes such beautiful music that everyone loves. So let's say, since they love it, I'm going to take it for myself too. Can you go once again from wherever you want? Go back to the G minor. You did that quite well. More sound from the right hand. Keep the long pedal. Go to them. Keep that pedal. Now D flat and C. Keep it loud. That's it. Stephen, that was much better. I think that you were a little bit cowardly about the pedal at the end. You were too clean for me. Okay? Give more. It is true that when we pedal, we want to make sure that the pedal is invisible, that we don't really hear it. But sometimes you just have to do it. This T-dum, this. You hear how dry that is without pedal, but scoot over, sorry. I like to pretend I can play this. What is it? Then I have to hear that bass for a while. And then... Okay, so let me play you something. It's not how much pedal that you use which is most important. It's how you are using your fingers inside the pedal. So I played this piece by Debussy called Pagoda. I'm going to not change the pedal at all. Listen. Until there. That's all one pedal, but I'm being very clear with my fingers and voicing on the inside. I would ask for the same thing here. What are my notes? From here. Sorry, that's 3 pedals that I had, but I was careful about this. So we want to make the sound warm and generous, as it were. Can we start from where? Oh, let's start this big crescendo once again, where you have the D7, and then whatever those notes are. Yes. Good. But I want more sound. This is where you're declaring to her your love for life. There's nothing more frightening for a man, that I find, than to ask someone to marry them. I knew my wife for 5 years before I asked her to marry me, okay? 5 years. You would think that after that time, I would know she was going to say yes. But you never know till you ask the question. And she could say no. She could have been waiting for 5 years to drive that dagger in my heart. You know, at that point. So when you are getting up the strength, or when you're asking anything, like when you're asking your dad for a raise, or, you know, at work or something like that, or you're asking the government for forgiveness because you didn't pay your taxes, you know, they could say no this way. I want you to allow that to enter into your heart and really expand it all the way through. So you say, please forgive me for not paying my taxes. I will next year, I promise. Can we try once again? Pumping.
But where should I, you know, start to push? I mean, to really, you know, push to the climax. Because if I push too early,
Yeah, we're
then,
starting in the middle. That's quite true. So let's.
no. I mean, yeah. I mean here. I mean, I was thinking of here, and then like when I grow,
Yes.
like how soon or how.
Where's
late
the
should
climax?
Should I push? Because if I push too soon, then I have too much sound and like this bass.
Right.
It's
You know what? That
much
kind of.
fun.
I understand your question. But that kind of issue happens to us all the time. It's not a question of where, it's a question of what's happening now. So scoot over, I'll make you stand up again. So if I'm starting too loud and I'm here, I have to give more and maybe take more time. Sorry. That could be that, or maybe I start too late. If I do this, then that can also be passionate. Maybe the second time I'm like an 85-year-old remembering, okay? And the first time I'm like a 27-year-old remembering. That's the real goal. There. I'm so in love with that last measure. I want you also to be. Can you start from there? I don't care how loud it gets too soon. I just need to get you to that last measure. Can we try? And more and more and more and give it you. That was so much better. Do it again. Could have been an accident. More. Give me everything. Let's go on. Move it. Yeah, I think once we let the cat out of the bag, we need to keep the sound going. And then... Keep that sound going, okay? Can you start from that third page, please? Or second page, I guess. Third page. For me, you changed the pedal too soon. I don't want to hear any quietness or any silence. Good. Crescendo. Yes, keep going. not bad. I'm going to ask for the same thing here, that you push a longer line through, okay? Even though you have very interesting harmonic changes, and also you have a big roll, and then you have this, and then there. I have to hear that harmonic motion a little bit more. Start at the top of the page, if you wouldn't mind. Really move us through. Keep it going. Now go on. Long line. Keep going, keep going, keep going, and then keep it going. Sing your sound. Keep it going. Yes, come now forte. That's it, Stephen. Now let this fly away like little birds. Faster, 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 faster. Good. And if it were me, I would actually take your hand and to play that last note, ping it out, okay, this way. It will actually, we don't have to play it loud, scoot over for a second. We don't have to play it loud, but it's going to give it its nice own sound. When you play this, it gives it a kind of ping and marks the end of the piece. Could you try it?
Sorry, technical-wise, do you use your wrist to do that thing? Or,
no,
or
not
you
really.
just
I'm
go
using
into
the front part of my
fingertip?
finger. Yes, exactly. Just bing. Right, it's a fast attack. Exactly.
So, like from there?
Yep. Do it once again, and this time play it softly, so that you whisper it in her ear. Yes, that would be what I want. Okay. Stephen, that's much more beautiful to me. Rachmaninoff is a little bit frustrating to play because it's a ton of notes for very simple ideas. And the simple idea that I want you to have is just a simple, longer line, more sound. It's true that for both you and Michael, I'm making you play loud on this piano because of the space, okay? If we were playing in a bathroom, I would have you play much softer, okay? But still, the line, the long line, is what we need all the way through. And we have to, even though we are having rests or doing different phrases or something like that, we have to keep that line moving all the way through. Do you have any other questions about the piece?
I guess it's more of, because it's in a way unusual for Rachmaninoff to have like long lines on the right hand, and yet like the left hand is pretty much busy, and yet like the main focus is still on the melody, right? So
right.
Yeah.
But Rachmaninoff is a vocal composer. I learned this quite recently about him, actually, that he's not, he's an incredibly virtuosic pianist, for sure. But his music is always singing. We have to remember the great Russian choirs or the great bells that we have. It's about a sustained sound that goes all the way through. And yes, there are tons of notes. That left hand is a line of itself that's just going on. It's like violas and cellos doing their thing. But the melody is king, for sure. The melody always is what we want to hear and be shaping our architecture with. Nobody starts by writing a piece, writing the accompaniment first, I think. They always start with the melody first. I think. I'm not a composer, but that just makes sense, okay? Any other questions?
So, I mean, when let's say interpreting this piece, it's, you know, For me at least, like the difficulty is it's that, because like I need to still focus upon the melody, and yet like the left hand, it has its own stuff going on with the harmonic contour and everything in between. So like the best way to interpret it is just to still focus on the melody, and yet like the left hand shouldn't overpower it or something.
That's right. Stephen, life is tough, as it were. And you know this just as well as I. I mean, I'm sitting here talking to you about a Rachmaninoff prelude, as it were, but I've got students that I'm also worried about at home. My son is doing something, my daughter's doing something, my wife is doing something, and I hope she's doing the right thing and not spending too much money, and, so forth and so on. There's lots of stuff that's going on in my head, as is going on in yours as well. We have to decide what to focus on at the moment while keeping our wife from spending too much money down, underneath. So it's a lot of stuff that we have to keep track of, but that's what makes it beautiful. That's what makes it an accurate reflection of life, in a sense. And life can be very beautiful, like this prelude, for sure. So thanks so much for playing for us. It's a great pleasure to hear you. So Ayun is going to come up and help you off. Before we go to the question and answer session, does anybody have any questions about the teaching that I can answer? You all know everything. There's a question.
Good afternoon, Mr. Harding.
Good afternoon.
I am Anissa Larsati Januar. Currently, I play the piano of Chopin with nocturne in A as major.
Yes.
So
you're talking about this one, right?
Yes.
That one, yes.
I play for the audition, the teacher audition of Yamaha.
Great.
I play with my feeling, but when I play with the many melodies in one rhythm, I still confused. I still feel confused, or my speed of hands is still messy.
I see. So you're wanting to know how to fix that. I see. Okay. So sometimes when our hands are messy or not together, you have to feel the rhythm the same, or let's say the pulses. Here. I don't play this piece, sorry. You have to make sure that your downbeats come together. And you have to be thinking about how you're moving your left hand so you get to the next downbeat effectively. So when you play these notes, go to there, and then there, and to there, and to there, and to there, and to there, and so forth. So I'm always moving my hands in a circle, making sure that the downbeats come together. Okay? That's very important, because you're right. When we're playing one piece, we're actually using two different things. We're using right hand and left hand. And within each hand, we're using 5 different fingers. Those digits, all those variables, have to be lined up together in kind of easily recognizable patterns, recognizable places. So that's kind of a quick and dirty answer to what I think you're asking. You're just playing really unmusically. So for whatever the notes are, so that you are feeling physically where your pulse is. I think that'll help you the most.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harding.
My pleasure. Maybe time for one more question before we go to the question and answer? If there is one more. No more questions. Great. So we can go right to the next section.
Okay, once again, can we give a big round of applause for Professor Harding and our future stars, Michael and Stephen. And now, for the Q&A session, I would like to invite up to the stage the President of World Piano Teachers Association Indonesia, Dr. Edith Widayani.
Professor Harding, do you want to stand or do you want to sit? Yes? Okay. So thank you so much for a wonderful masterclass. I think everyone had fun. Did you have fun? Yeah? You have a very exciting teaching. Now I wanted to get a masterclass from him. Except I haven't been practicing, so I probably don't have any pieces to play. But yes, we actually have a few people sending us questions as you were teaching. Is it okay for me to ask them to you?
Of course, yes, yes.
While we wait, if there's anyone here who wants to ask questions, please feel free to raise your hand. Somebody's going to get a microphone to you. And then when you ask your questions, please let us know your name and where you're from, and then you can ask us the question. So the first one, which is quite interesting actually, this is from Bianca. She's watching through Instagram. What qualities do you look for in young pianists when you're mentoring them?
How young? So,
Okay, interesting.
I mean, it's different. Pre-college, I'm looking for somebody who is willing to pay attention and focus and work hard. You know, I taught one lesson here in Indonesia, which was a little tough for me. It was a young student who quite plainly didn't want to be taking a lesson from me. I think they were 8 years old, okay? And you know, 8-year-olds, they're not always with you, as it were. But it was difficult to get this student to do something, to change something. They weren't really paying attention. And I said, what do you like to do most? And this student said, I like to be on my phone all the time, okay? And I've got a son who also likes to be on YouTube a lot and so forth and so on. But you know, when you're on your phone all the time, and I said, is that the only thing you like to do? And he said, yes, I like to be on the phone, okay? When that's the only thing that's happening, I said, that's the problem. This student cannot focus and concentrate. And so what I'm looking for personally as a teacher is I want a student who's going to focus and commit to doing what I ask them to do, if I'm talking about pre-college. And that goes even up into high school. But what I'm looking for in a high school student is somebody who takes ownership of their own learning, who has questions and has a goal and wants to do something, you know, whether they go to school or not. I mean, for music, that's something else. But if they say, I want to learn this piece and I want to play it in this performance, or I want to do this competition, I want some kind of ownership over that. And for the undergraduate, I'm looking for somebody who is curious and who's going to work really hard and really become the best pianist and musician they can be. As a master's student, I'm looking for somebody who is really trying to become the best performer they can be. And as a doctoral student, I'm looking for somebody who's very curious, very intellectually creative, and somebody who has their eye on making a difference in the world of music. And I mean the world. My studio is very international. I think that the Americans in my studio are probably 1 out of 18, you know, as it were. I'm almost quite serious about that. And I really want to affect the world from people who want to become the best artists and musicians and people they can be, so that they can come back to their country and make a real difference in the world. That's what I'm looking for.
Wonderful. Come visit us more often.
My pleasure.
Okay. Any questions from the audience here? Yes. Can you take the microphone? Perfect.
Good afternoon, Miss and Mr. Harding. So I have a question. I have two questions.
Your name?
My name is Sherlyn, and I'm from Jakarta. I'm also a pianist. But I have a question. So if we interpret something like what you did, like what you mentor, if we interpret something on the piece and we find one way to play it, and it sounds like comfortable and it's like good in some sense, should we discover more and play more as we go on, or do we have to stick with that one version of findings? The second one is...
Hang on, let me answer the first
okay.
question first.
Okay.
So the answer is yes and no. Okay? When you find something that works on the piano and with a piece that you're playing, and it's very comfortable and it makes sense in what you're doing, then yes, you should try to refine that to the best of your ability. And if you are a creative musician, it's never going to stay the same. The next day it will be better, or it will be different, or something like that. And so I want to encourage you always to be looking for new ideas, a new sound. And that will happen. You know, sometimes you'll go to sleep at night thinking about something, you wake up in the morning and you have a new idea. That happens. That's part of being a creative artist, as it were. But I have had several students, one student in particular who's a very fine student, but she would never make a decision. We'd get something in a lesson, it'd be really good, the performance is in a week and a half, I'd hear it for the next lesson a week later, and it'd be completely different, and I'd say, what the heck? What did you do? I mean, and it wasn't working, and it's not so much, and I said, you can't make a decision that's completely the opposite when you're preparing for a performance or a competition. Sometimes you have to simply say, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to do it the best I can do because the performance is tomorrow, or the next week. So you have to take a stand sometimes, as it were.
Oh, okay.
And what's your second question?
My second question is, I heard that you mentioned that we should some sort of affect the audience while we play. Like, we have to achieve our objective on the piece that we play. How can we do that? Because sometimes I found difficulties on affecting the audience itself. Because in playing the piano, we should affect others because we're playing. In a sense that we're a performer. Like, how do I achieve that?
Yes, that is exactly what we study over the many years that we're in school, and it's something that we grow in, okay? So we all have some kind of ability to talk to other people, but some of us have it more than others. They have this kind of charisma, okay? But you can develop that charisma about how to affect an audience. Think about the world leaders that you know today, okay? Or the president of Indonesia, whom I don't know at this point, but he has a certain charisma about him, I'm sure, about how he's talking to crowds. Was he like that in high school? I mean, would he go to high school and everybody be like, oh, he's going to be president of Indonesia? I don't know. I'm sure the seed was there, but he had to learn how to talk, learn how to control the audience, as it were. So what you're asking is a very big question. When I play, do I play because I want to make the audience feel a certain way? Or do I play in a way that is going to make the audience feel a certain way because I feel that way? I think it's the second way. You have to really decide what the piece is about and how you create, how you make it come to life, like the story of Pygmalion that I was talking about earlier. You have to make sure that you are feeling it really intensely and with truth, as it were. And then you have to say that truth to 500 of your best friends, this way. So it's a skill. Performance is a skill that is different than being an artist, in a way. Because we hear many professional performers who are great professional performers, but they're not really the most interesting artists. And sometimes I hear very interesting artistry, but from people who don't perform very well, okay? A performance skill is using your voice, using your playing in such a way that it's going to get to the audience and combat their attention. So for instance, Stephen was playing with very beautiful sound, but my sound was bigger and fatter because when I am teaching or when I'm performing, I know how to actually put it in your lap, as we say, and create that kind of connection with you with the sound. Stephen is growing in that, okay? And he actually grew in very beautiful sound, I think, as we were going through. But he would still need more experience playing in front of an audience so that we know that we are talking to them in the right way, as it were. It's difficult to define, but we have to approach it that way. So when I'm teaching, for instance, I've said this to some other people, I'm using my teaching voice. It's a voice that is calculated to keep your attention and to keep your focus. But I don't talk like this at the dinner table. I don't say, please pass the potatoes. I want to eat the green beans from over here. I could do that if I'm trying to get my son's attention, as it were. But, I would say, no, could someone pass the potatoes, please? I'd like the green beans. It's different, as it were. But that's my professional communicative teaching voice, as it were.
So we have kind of to find the balance. Likewise?
I don't think we have to find balance. I think we have to find the way to actually communicate to somebody. Okay. But you have to communicate with reality. You can't just do it for the sake of what I want to say. I want people to cry, so I'm going to play this way so that they'll cry, even though the piece, is happy. I want them to cry. That would be wrong, in a sense. We want to do what the piece wants, and we want to do it with reality, but we have to do it in a way that's going to be communicated to the audience. Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes sense.
Great.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Yeah, I feel like you have to convince yourself that what you're playing is true before other people can see it, that it is actually sincere. Like,
that's a good way to say it.
Unless you can, if you're not convinced with the way that you play, no one is going to be convinced of the way you play. So you have to convince yourself that what you're doing means so much to you that other people will feel it too. I feel like that's it took me a while as well to get to this realization, but you can tell when someone is very deeply involved with the way that they want to create music that you cannot help but to be taken into their world. And that's a very different thing compared to somebody who's just, I'm just doing this, like a detached type of feeling. So I feel like that's probably, you have to convince yourself, big time, and
well
then
spoken.
and then it's going to happen. So, anyone else wanting to ask questions? If not yet, then okay, perfect.
So, hello everyone. My name is Daud Ibrahim. I'm from Jakarta. So, I'm currently studying informatics engineering, but I also deeply love into classical music. And one of the pieces that truly inspires me is Rachmaninoff the Second Concerto, and I played it on piano. And my dream is to one day perform it with a full orchestra. But I'm not from a musical background, so my question is it possible for someone from a non-musical background to still pursue a high professional level? So that's my question. Thank you, sir.
Absolutely. I'm sure that you will have answers to this too. But you know, when I was a student 30 or 40 years ago, there was a businessman who loved the Mahler Second Symphony. And he loved it so much, he was obsessed with it, that he took lessons, he paid for lessons with the world's great conductors to teach him how to conduct this symphony. And he had a career going around conducting major symphony orchestras. Rochester Philharmonic was one, Chicago Symphony, National Symphony, New York Philharmonic, just conducting this symphony because he loved it so much. So if you want to do that, I mean, it might take some money, but probably as an electrical engineer, you'll have that kind of money. You can hire an orchestra or get an orchestra together to read through this piece with you and maybe even give the concert, as it were. You are the one who sets the standard. So, I mean, you would hire the orchestra or not. You have to set the standard of how you play the piece. You know, you have to decide, am I ready to play this piece or not? But you can make it happen for sure, I think.
Okay. And it's actually really interesting too, because in United States, even if you are not a music major, usually, I don't know how it is in Michigan, but in University of Rochester, even like other majors, but they play piano, they can play with the University of Rochester Orchestra. They have a concerto competition every year, and then the person who plays the violin or the one who plays the piano concerto is never a pianist, like not a major. They don't major in music, but they actually do those type of things as well. So maybe not in Indonesia, maybe not in a university in Indonesia, but in universities abroad, definitely happens all the time that a computer science major suddenly plays a piano concerto with the University of Rochester Orchestra. So that's something that's very normal, I think.
And I will say, this is slightly a tangent to your discussion, but it's important to remember. All those concerts that you hear with the great artists, let's say Marta Argerich comes and plays Rachmaninoff's Second Concerto with the Jakarta Symphony Orchestra, that's great. But what's making that happen is someone like you who has money from another endeavor, who is funding that concert. Because Marta Argerich's fee, I'm sure, is at least $50,000 or $60,000, which is not going to be covered by all the ticket sales. There has to be somebody who is supporting that as well. So in your pursuit of, you know, highest excellence in your own playing as well, we also have to remember that those who are at the highest excellence, like Marta Argerich or Murray Pariah or Yu Jawang or somebody like that, they also need help and support. So people who are not professional musicians but who love it deeply like you are so very valuable in all ways to the profession as well.
Okay, so while we wait for more questions from the audience here, I have a question online. This is from YouTube. Lin Win asks, "Hi, Professor Harding, what do you usually ask your student to practice to improve their technique? Is there any book that you suggest?"
Hannon. So actually, I'm quite serious. So for my undergraduate students, I give them a technical routine that I learned from my teacher, and we go through it very carefully. It deals with certain exercises about how to use arm weight, how to move from the wrist. Hannon does play a big part in that. My teacher told me to memorize the first 31, to memorize, hand separately all the way through. That's a good mental exercise. I make my undergrad students do that, or they should be doing that, I should say. We do scales and arpeggi because those are the basic blocks of music. So it's about a half hour of exercises that I teach, as it were. There's no other book than that. It's just something that I explain.
Okay. Wonderful. Is there any more questions? Yes.
Okay, I'm Anissa Larsate Januar. I graduated from Jakarta State University and at the Faculty of Language and Arts from music program, music study program. Now I joined the music teacher audition at Yamaha Music School. Oh, what the what the important message for the person who joined the music teacher audition like me? Thank you, Professor Harding.
Do you mean after you have won the audition? What's the important message? Or as you're preparing for the audition?
Yes.
Preparing for the audition. Okay. Well, actually, it would be the same message that I would send. Teaching is always about the student. It really is always about the student. And it's very easy to think that teaching is about yourself, even for the good reasons, because if your student's doing poorly, and maybe they're a bad student or something like that, it's easy to think that you are a bad teacher because of that. That's not always the case. Teaching is always about the student and what they need at the moment to improve their musicianship, to improve their pianism, maybe to improve their lives, actually, because teachers have an incredibly powerful influence on their students, especially with something as important as music. I would say that I don't know my students very well. I don't know how many brothers and sisters they have. I don't know what their parents do. I don't know their pets' names. I don't know if they're happy in school. But I know them very well. I know their hearts very well because I see who they are as people through music. And when I'm teaching them about scales or arpeggi, and I say, your wrist's not moving very well, and they're crying because their boyfriend dumped them or something like that, then I have to say, okay, as a teacher, my responsibility is to say, I'm so sorry. Should we talk about your boyfriend or something about this? And sometimes that's the case. I pray every day before I teach that I will give the students the right words in the right way, what they need to hear. And some days somebody will come in and they just don't want to be talking about music. They want to talk about their boyfriend. So I say, okay, let's hear it. And we'll talk about that for the whole lesson sometimes. Sometimes the lesson will go in a different direction that I think. I think that they might be bringing in a Beethoven sonata, and we're going to talk about that technical passage that's wrong. But what they really need to talk about is the architecture of the piece or the history of the piece. So in some ways, as the teacher, I am the servant of the students. I mean, I know more than they do, hopefully, and also I have an idea of where I want to take them. But for me, teaching is exciting because I never really know where the lesson's going to go, because the need of the student is always different each time. So what that means, I mean, I'm telling you that it's always about the student and what the student needs, and it keeps us humble and also open to each lesson, I think. That's very, very important to remember as a teacher. Not just, oh, I need to know all my stuff. I need to know all about this piece so I can tell them this, and this. That's not necessarily what the student needs. They might need something completely different in that moment. So we have to be humble to open our ears and our hearts to know what that is, as it were. It's a real relationship issue. Anyway, that's what I would say about that.
Thank you, Professor Harding. It's very well and for me.
I do want to ask this question because I think this is probably something that's relevant for everyone. This is somebody from Instagram. Ella asked, what are the most common mistakes young pianists can make, and how do you think they can overcome them?
Well, again, I don't know how young the pianist is. Very young pianists oftentimes make mistakes about reading the correct notes, okay? And that's just, once you've learned how to read music, the teacher shouldn't have to say, that's an A flat, that's an E flat, that's a F sharp all the time. You have to pay attention to what you're doing. I think any student who's making mistakes simply hasn't taken responsibility for those mistakes. And sometimes we have problems, it's true. I've got a master's student right now who can't count. That's weird, So, or kind of wrong notes. And it's like, how'd you get to be a master's student? You play really well. How come you don't count? Or how come you don't, get the right notes. That in the end becomes a character issue to me. I say, if you know that you have this problem, why aren't you fixing it, you know, in a way? So those kinds of problems, it's hard to say what are the most common problems a young pianist has, because that'll be different from different people. You know, what is striking to me is that some pianists don't know what octave to play in. So they will just play in the wrong octave. They don't really know where they are on the piano. That had never occurred to me until I started teaching professionally. And then I saw that in many different students. And I said, is this really an issue? But in the end, it's a character issue. You know where middle C is, okay? And if you don't really, you know, have an idea of piano topography, you just need to find out. You need to do it yourself and take care of business. So it becomes an issue of, is the student taking care of what they know they need to do?
I guess it's the issue of being responsible to the music itself. Sometimes I think what if I can summarize is that I feel like sometimes young people would just say, it's okay, it's gonna be okay, like that type of attitude instead of accountability to the music itself. I think being accountable for music is very, very important, especially considering that ours is actually written down and not like improvised. So I guess, yeah, I agree.
That word you're using, accountability, is really important. And that's a life lesson, not just for music, but for all of our life, for sure.
Agree. Yeah, Beethoven's notes are not, what is it?
They're not mistakes.
Or, you know, optional. Like you do have to play all of them correctly. It's not like take it out when it's difficult type of idea. Okay, I think we have just a tiny bit more time. Any last question from the audience here? No? Okay, one last one from online then. Giselle asked, how important is it to balance technical precision with emotional expression in piano performance?
The emotion is more important than technical precision. However, you cannot express something without technical precision. I mean, they're two sides of the same coin. You have to have the music, but you have to have the means with which to express the music. So, you know, when you are playing, just because you play some wrong notes, or maybe even lots of wrong notes, doesn't mean that your performance has no meaning, or that the message might be impaired a little bit, but it's still quite reasonable there. But we want to always be practicing to make sure that we can play it as accurately as possible and with as much command as possible.
So both, just practice. That's the point. Okay, so I think that's pretty much all the questions that I have here, and I know that we're very, very short on time, so I'm just going to close really quickly. We want to thank, from the WPTA Indonesia, we want to thank Professor Harding for being here, for hosting us, for being with us for these 3 wonderful events on Thursday and today. And then we want to thank you everyone also for being here. And last but not least, thank you so much to the US Embassy, to Ed America, to American Spaces for hosting us this past 2 days. And then speaking about studying in the United States and pursuing music, At America actually has a resource called Education USA. So for anyone here or anyone who's watching online who wants to ask questions about studying in the United States, please come here. Please reach out to Education USA so they have all the resources to help you answer your questions as well. Also, if you missed the morning session, please go to YouTube and watch it, this morning session, because we talk a lot about education and pursuing higher education in the United States. But yes, so thank you so much for being here, and I'll give it back to Aldi.
Thank you very much. Boleh tepuk tangan for our amazing moderator, Dr. Edith, and of course, Professor Harding. And Sobat America, we are nearing the end of our event for today. However, we have a survey for our online audience and also those in attendance today. We will show this QR code on screen. So please do bring out your gadgets and scan the QR code, because we highly value your feedback and opinions, of course, about today's event. Yes, you may also take a picture of it, and you can access the survey after we finish this event. And once again, boleh tepuk tangan sekali lagi yang paling meriah? Yes, and also to Michael and Steven as our two amazing young pianists for the future of Indonesian music. Yes, thank you to our online audience and those in attendance today. We do hope that you find today's event insightful. And Sobat America, if there's one thing that we all learned from Professor Harding this week, is that piano is not only a musical instrument, but it also teaches us how to be a better person. My name is Aldi Rashid with the entire Ad America team saying thank you and see you at the next Ad America event. Bye, everyone. Okay, thank you. And now, as usual, we are going to take a picture with